What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Marv Moorhead Memorial Stadium here at Upper Arlington High School for a big-time matchup in the OCC Central. The Upper Arlington Golden Bears 6-1 on the season after losing to the Division I state champion Olentangy Liberty Patriots last week 16-6. They're 6-1 taking on the undefeated Olentangy Orange Pioneers, and maybe one of the most electric offenses in the entire state. Two top 15 offenses in Division I will go to battle, and two really, really good defenses as well, defenses that hold teams to under 10 points per game. So it's going to be an outstanding game to watch here tonight. And once again, we're here at Upper Arlington High School, and Will Ford here with you with Storied Rivals Sports Media. Really appreciate you making us part of your Football Friday live on X, Facebook, and YouTube for coverage of Week 8 Storied Rivals football. Before we dive into this matchup here in the OCC Central, we want to take a trip over to Mason County for a big-time rivalry tonight with the Jonathan Alder Pioneers. They're taking on the London Red Raiders, and both of those teams are 7-0, so undefeated starts to their season. And Jonathan Alder, led by returning head coach Brett Glass, who was the head coach a number of years ago, served for 4 years at Dublin Jerome before returning back to the Pioneers, and he is exactly where they expected him to be, a super talented roster sitting at 7-0, and London 7-0 as well. And a little history on this matchup, I did a little bit of digging, and the last time that these two teams met up in this rivalry where they were both undefeated at the same time was back in 2020. They were both 5-0. They actually played twice during that season, and Jonathan Alder got the better of them in both of those games. So 2020, obviously a weird year for everybody involved due to the COVID pandemic and everything. But that was the last time these two teams met under these sorts of circumstances in terms of being undefeated, playoff seeding, and positioning on the line. And that rivalry is as intense as any rivalry in the state. And I know that Coach Glass and his Pioneers are ready to go. And last week for them, they held off a 1-6 Urbana team 28-21. They almost gave that game away late. They had a couple fumbles late in the fourth quarter, but had a huge defensive stand with about a minute left in the game, kept them out of the end zone from tying the game, and they improved to 7-0. Cashton Wheeler headlines that offense. He had 116 yards rushing, 51 receiving yards, and a touchdown. He also had an interception. He just stuffs the stats. And when you look at London in this rivalry, they've won the previous 4 matchups, but Coach Glass, during his 6 years with the Pioneers, he won all 3 matchups against this Red Raider football team. So it's going to be really interesting tonight. And, quarterback Brock Hughes for Jonathan Alder, he's had a really efficient season. 1,600 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, so averaging an interception a game, but really moves the football well through the air, 140 completions out of 183 attempts, so that completion percentage is really high. And Cashton Wheeler, I mentioned his performance last week, but he's been doing it all season long. 777 yards rushing and 7 rushing touchdowns. There must be something with 7s in this game because both teams are 7-0. Cashton Wheeler's stats are 777 for 7 touchdowns. And that's only on 109 carries, so he is just an absolute beast whenever he has the football in his hands, and he scores on both sides of the ball. I mean, you look at the stat sheet each and every week for Jonathan Alder, Cashton Wheeler is all over it, and he makes winning plays for his football team. And they're taking on a London football team that's led by Daquan Parks, who has 78 carries this season for 647 yards. He has 13 touchdowns. And London is a team that had an outstanding season last year, undefeated regular season, and made it all the way to the Division III state semi. Ended up taking on the eventual state champion in Watterson. They lost 56-21. Outstanding year last year. They returned most of their guys this year, and they're headlined by Daquan Parks. But we got to sit down with head coach Brett Glass talking about and reflecting on this 7-0 start after he comes back and rejoins the program after being away for 4 years. Talks about the outstanding play of his senior running back, Cashton Wheeler, and this rivalry leading up to tonight with London. So here is Coach Glass here on Stadium Drive, week number 8, live on X, Facebook, and YouTube. And we appreciate you being here. And here is Coach Glass. Brett Glass, Jonathan Alder, 7-0 going into week 8 and taking on London in a big rivalry game. And Coach, I appreciate you making time for me today and joining us here with Storied Rivals. And you've had an outstanding season to this point, and you've got no bigger game on your schedule than this one here with London. Both teams are 7-0, so that adds just an extra layer of importance to this one. But, I mean, talk to me about the season to this point, though, leading up to this game. And you guys are playing some outstanding football. You're 7-0, and last week against Urbana, maybe almost gave that one away. You had a couple fumbles late that almost gave them the win, and you guys had a great defensive stand in the final minute there. But you guys are 7-0 and playing outstanding.
Yeah, it's been a good year so far. Our kids have been playing really hard. A couple different games, the Urbana game, Columbus Academy game, and Bloom Carroll. We found ways to win. Almost found a way to lose last week.
Sure.
But our kids are doing a good job battling. We've had some lopsided games. We've had 3 really close ones. And those are going to pay off in the long run, having us compete. But yeah, our kids have been doing well. New staff coming in this year, even though I'm kind of an old staff member being the head coach.
Right.
But new defense coordinator and things, so they're still learning how we do things. But it's been a good start.
What's that been like for you? Obviously, you're experiencing tremendous success. Your first season back with the program, but you were with the program a number of years ago, as you mentioned. What's the whole process been like for you? And are you surprised that you guys are maybe 7-0, just given kind of just the new things that are going on with the program and you coming back?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being back. I mean, it's been great. I told the kids when I first got the job, even though I left for a few years, I was never done being a pioneer. We still lived in the community and all those things. And my kids were going to go to school here regardless of where I was coaching and all those things. And it just worked out for me to have the opportunity to come back. But not really surprised, to be honest with you. In the off season, I saw our kids work. I knew we had coming back. And the kids have kind of proven that to me that, I expected to be 7-0 going in here. I'm not going to lie to you. So, obviously that might sound a little arrogant or whatever, but I felt like we had the pieces to be a good football team.
No, but you have to be confident and maybe a little arrogant in order to be successful. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now, talk to me about Cashton Wheeler, because anytime I look at a stat sheet every week, it seems like he is showing up in just every area of the box score. And I know last week, it maybe wasn't his best game, but it was still a great game. I mean, he's had some great games all year, 116 rushing yards, 51 receiving yards. He had a touchdown. He had an interception. He just makes plays on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. He scores touchdowns on both sides of the ball. And it just seems like week after week after week, he is just putting up numbers, but it's not so much the numbers, it's just plays that impact the game in winning ways for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. This is his first year playing running back. And so that's been different for him, carrying the ball, getting 20 or so touches a game, but he's our most electric skill player by far. I shouldn't say by far, but he does really well with the ball in his hands. And, we figured running back would be a way to get him the ball more, but he's our get out of jail free card. Whenever we need a big play, he's our guy to go to. And I'm sure other teams know that too, but he just had a great senior season so far, and we're looking for more coming up here.
Yeah. Now with London and this rivalry, these are, is one of the games that you kind of mark this one in red ink, not necessarily black ink, I guess, but I had to kind of dig a little bit because both of you guys are undefeated, which I think is really unique as you enter this stretch run of the season. And I dug back, and I saw that both of you guys were 5-0 entering your matchup back in 2020, and you actually played both 2 times that season, once in the playoffs. So there's a little bit of history there, I suppose, but obviously 2020 was a weird year for everybody with COVID and everything. But for both of you to be 7-0 at this point going into this rivalry game, how much importance does that add to this game, and I guess the level of urgency behind it?
I think it adds a little bit, but I think more for the people on the outside. The kids
Yeah,
on the field and the coaches, I think, are just focused on this game tonight. I think Coach Cutler would probably tell you the same thing over there in London. I think it adds, more, aura to the game, in the communities and the schools and all those things. But as far as us, I don't think. I think both teams could be 0-7, and I think both of us would approach this game
sure.
the same way.
Yeah, no, leave it to media guys like me to
Yeah,
put, pressure on a game like this when,
yeah.
both of you are 7-0. But it certainly does just add to the
Oh,
storyline
yeah.
a little bit,
Yeah, for
100%.
sure.
But with London, obviously they're 7-0 and they're playing some outstanding football, especially the last 3 weeks. They've pitched 3 straight shutouts, 42-0, 47-0, 48-0. Both of your offenses are explosive. You guys put up points, but I mean, the defenses are also great too. On film, like when you look at this football team, and obviously you've had this game earmarked, but what do you see on film and what challenges do they pose to your offense as far as getting guys like Cashton the ball and just making things easy for your offense, and I guess the defensive side of the ball as well?
Yeah, offensively, with their defense, they're really good at being multiple. They do different things. If you turn on 3 different games, they're gonna do 3 different things schematically, which means to me they're really well coached. Their kids tackle well. They're big. They're physical. They run to the ball. In the secondary, can play multiple coverages. So anytime you have that in a high school football team, makes things tough on the play caller, makes things tough on the quarterback. So we just have to have a plan and then be able to adapt to what they're doing. But I'm sure they'll have a plan to take number 1 out of the game, Cashton,
Right.
and I'm everybody's going to try to do that. So just be on our ability to adapt as the game goes on, and make sure we're taking what they give us. Defensively, for us, they are just a meat grinder up front on offense. They're wing tee. Get as many guys to the point of attack as possible. It's what they've always been since we've played them here before when I was here, and they're just going to try to out physical you, out muscle you, and just beat you. And it's up to our kids to stand up to that and take it back to them. And that's what we've preached all week. But yeah, just a different type of game defensively for us because of what they do. You don't see it a lot in high school football anymore.
Sure.
But overall, big, physical, tough. What London's always been, and we've got to match that tonight.
Yeah, I've heard the term phone booth football, like especially when you're lining up against a team like that. You just put, both sides in a phone booth and just see if you can make open field tackles. And because I mean, like you said, they're super physical, and you've got to be on point defensively as far as making tackles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. We want to obviously get the guys on the ground and don't give up any big plays. And they've got a few running backs, a few different guys that can take it the distance. So we've got to be on point there.
Yeah, no. With Cashton, obviously they're going to try to take him out of the game. How do you try to be creative in terms of getting him the ball? Is it motions? Is it just lining him up in different spots? Because obviously he can catch and he can run. How do you be diverse with your looks as far as trying to get him the football?
Yeah. I mean, the great thing about running back is you can just hand it to him, to get him the ball. And so we have that in our back pocket. It's not like he's a receiver and you have to worry about throwing it to him and that stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, for sure, move him around, use him in different situations, get him, running pass patterns out of the backfield, things that stress the defense, and just finding ways where our matchups are, and not just for him, but for all of our guys. But yeah, for sure, not letting them take our best offensive player out of the game, I think is a huge point here.
If he were to line up, just say in the slot or something like that, does that, because the defense has to account for where he is, does that kind of really open things up for the pass game a little bit?
It could, depends on what their plan would be if we were to flex him out. I think anytime you put someone in a different position, lights start going off for the defense, and it might change.
Sure.
Might change what they're doing. But yeah, it could definitely open things up potentially in other areas.
Yeah, well, it's going to be really fun to watch. I can't wait to see the result of this game tonight. Both teams 7-0 and the stretch run of the year, man. And it's great to see that you guys are playing some good football as well as them. So I'm looking forward to this rivalry, and I appreciate you hopping on here and talking ball, man, for 10 minutes. I'm glad that we got a chance to sit down and talk, and best of luck against London and the rest of the way, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Big thanks to Coach Brett Glass for joining us here on Stadium Drive, and I apologize for any of you who could not see video along with I and Coach Glass's voices there. I'm not quite sure what happened there, maybe just some sort of glitch in the software, but the full interview is posted on Facebook and YouTube, so you can see Coach Glass's face alongside our voices there as we talk about that rivalry upcoming with London here tonight on the road at London. And again, both teams 7-0, playing outstanding football through 7 weeks here in the season. But now let's move to tonight here at Upper Arlington High School here at Marv Moorhead Memorial Stadium, and we'll start with the Golden Bears. They're 6-1 as they take on Orange tonight, and they lost last week 16-6 to Olentangy Liberty. And all three of these teams, the Bears, Liberty, and Orange, split the OCC Central title last year, and all three teams are firmly in the mix to do the same thing again this year, especially with Upper Arlington's loss to Liberty last week. They lost 16-6, but it was 9-6 with about a minute left to go. And then Luke Backus threw a pick six to Antonio Kish, who returned to 88 yards for a touchdown, and that made the score 16-6 the final. And UA was really one drive away from still remaining perfect at 7-0, as much as they struggled offensively in that game. But they are still, even though they only put up 6 points last week, the number 11 offense in the state of Ohio in Division I, 33.1 points per game. And you compare that to holding teams under 10 points a game defensively, and it's the same thing for the Olentangy Orange Pioneers. They're the number 3 offense in the state of Ohio, 39.9 points per game. They hold teams to 8 points a game defensively. It's going to be a really, really interesting matchup. But I mentioned Luke Backus, and we'll obviously the numbers last week aren't going to look great for anyone on UA's squad, just given the offensive struggles. But let's take a look at Backus's numbers a couple weeks ago in his 6th consecutive win to start the season against Hilliard Bradley. They won 31-14, but he was 12 of 20 for 100 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for 50 yards and a score. And Backus is a kid that was used mostly as a gadget quarterback last year in the red zone, would run the football, and was very effective at doing so. But as Coach Buttermore, he'll tell you in our discussion with him, he's got a super, super strong and talented arm, and it really has shown through the first 6 weeks of the season. And Backus, you might recognize that last name if you're an Upper Arlington faithful, because his uncle, Jeff, was Mr. Ohio football in 2000, and that was Upper Arlington's 15-0 season in their run to their only state championship, and he holds Upper Arlington's single-season record still to this day in rushing yards in a season, 3,346 yards, 266 points scored that year, as well as 44 touchdowns, and he went on to be a defensive back at Northwestern. Super successful career and outstanding player, and Luke is certainly making a name for himself with the Golden Bears, winning 6 straight games to start his career as a starting quarterback, and he's got great support around him as well. A great running game led by Andrew Theado, and wide receiver Trent Wolpert leads the air attack. But Theado in Week 6 against Bradley, 18 carries, 82 yards, a rushing touchdown, and he also had a receiving touchdown. And Wolpert, super talented veteran receiver, 5 catches, 48 yards, almost 10 yards a catch, and a touchdown. And those guys lead the charge for the Upper Arlington Golden Bears. But let's talk to head coach Justin Buttermore about this matchup. How do you try to stop this Olentangy Orange offense that hasn't scored under 30 points all year? They're averaging almost 40 a game. And, you remember these two teams played twice last year in 2024. Week 8 of the regular season where Orange won 28-20. That was the lowest, I think maybe the second lowest point total that they had scored all year. The lowest was in their round 2 playoff game in Division I where UA won 24-20. So if there's anyone out there that knows how to stop this, or maybe not stop, but maybe contain this Olentangy Orange offense, it's Coach Buttermore and his defense. Talks about the development and the decision-making improvement of Luke Backus in his first year as a starter, and just the overall play of his team through 7 weeks. And kind of the only aberration on the radar is their Week 7 loss to Olentangy Liberty last week. But here is head coach Justin Buttermore of the Upper Arlington Golden Bears live here on Facebook, X, and YouTube. And hopefully you can see myself and Coach Buttermore this time. Hopefully you can see the interview, and here it is. Used him more as a gadget player, as a runner, and just your thoughts on his development as a passer this year.
Well, he had a great arm even last year, and in hindsight, we probably should have put him in opportunities to use it more. But we did. We used him kind of in the red zone last year, and in the red zone, a lot of times you're going to be running the ball, and he is a gifted runner as well. But he's got a better arm than anybody I've had here in 6 years. I mean, he's got a tremendous arm. We knew that last year. He's always had a really good arm. He's just a really well-rounded athlete. He can do a little bit of everything. And he's a smart kid too. So, but he's developed. I mean, the biggest thing as a quarterback is making good decisions. And I think that's a thing that he's done pretty well throughout the season. And last week, again, not just him, but as a whole, we just did not make great decisions on either side of the ball. And again, that's not a jab at our players. As from a coaching side of things, we obviously didn't have them ready to do what we needed to do to win. But he's made really good decisions most of the year when we've played teams that want to play man. He's thrown the ball with rhythm and timing and anticipated routes being open. So I think the decision making is a development that for an inexperienced quarterback or starting quarterback, I think the ability to make good decisions is always priority number one, and he's really done that throughout the year.
Now, with Orange here in Week 8, you played them twice last year and 2 great games. You lost 28-20 in the regular season in Week 8, but then you got the best of them in the playoffs in round 2, and you had a late interception that really swayed the game in your favor, and you were able to go down and win the game. But you're playing an Orange team that, I mean, as explosive as their offense was last year, it might be even better this year. They're putting up 39, almost 40 points a game. They're one of the top scoring offenses in the state. Are there things that you take from last year's games that things you did to make Levi Davis and that offense a little bit uncomfortable, kind of force them into some mistakes? Do you take anything from those games last year schematically to apply to this Week 8 game?
Well, I think you certainly got to do different things, and you look at those games and see how they played out. But I'll tell you, you said it, they're a whole different level this year. As good as they were a year ago, and honestly, we struggled to get them off the field last year with a really experienced defense. They are at a whole nother level. I've told a lot of people that, but I can't imagine there's a more explosive team in the state. I think they probably are as good as anybody in the state on offense, and defensively they're really good too. But they just have so many weapons. I mean, the running back is a totally different player. He was a JV here, and he's a dynamic 1-2 punch with Levi, because Levi can hurt you in so many different ways with his arm, with his legs, with his scrambling. But the running back is a huge difference maker. He is just exceptional. And I think they have 4 receivers that would be the number 1 receiver on nearly every team in the city. When they put their 2 corners over there and play receiver too, they got 4 guys that are as good as anybody, and their offensive line is exceptional too. I mean, there is no weakness. We always try to identify a weakness in a team. We're going in to play them, and honestly, you just don't see one with them at any spot. And along with that, I think they do a really great job coaching them. I mean, they do some stuff that's just it's simple, but it's really good, and it gives Levi a ton of options, and it makes it very, very difficult to be right defensively. So you take some things from those games, but at the same time, he's not making the mistakes that he made a year ago. There's times that he made a few mistakes a year ago, and you just don't see that. He's an experienced kid. He's played 4 years now, Levi has, and they are, I think they have like 6 punts in 8 games. I mean, nobody gets them off the field. So it's just they're really, really difficult to deal with, and I think as good as anybody in the state.
So given that they punt the ball so little and, their offense is so explosive, does the style of play, like for you guys specifically, does it lend itself to, I mean, you hate to want to get into a shootout with Orange. Obviously, I think ideally if you want to win, you want to control the time of possession. and keep them off the field as long as possible and go on long drives and everything and just limit their chances. Is that how you view it, or do you see this kind of being a shootout? I mean, what do you think?
Well, I don't love shootouts, but at the end of the day, you're not beating this team 10-7 or 17
right,
or anything else. I mean, there's no question that the offense has got to score points. Our offense has got to play a lot better than they did a week ago, and they know that. I mean, they know how good Orange is. They've watched the film too. You're going to have to score points to beat them. Nobody's shutting down this offense, and I mean nobody. I don't think will be able to truly shut down all the things that they can do. So to have a chance, you do have to possess the ball and try to keep their offense on the sideline. But you gotta score points too. Possessing the ball and not getting points out of it is not gonna win you the game. I mean, it's gonna help maybe keep their offense off the field, but so we have to finish drives. We've got to execute offensively. We've got to possess the ball, and we've got to finish drives and get points on the board to have a chance to win.
To your point, there is no stopping them. They score a lot of points, but you are the only opponent. You're the only opponent on their schedule the last 2 years that has held them. Like, you've held them to the lowest point total in a game, and that was 20 points in that playoff game last year. So if there's anybody that can contain them a little bit, it's Coach Buttermore's defense.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think that we can, slow them down a little bit for sure. I mean, we've got to get stops. I mean, there's no question about it. Even if the offense plays well and executes and puts points on the board, you got to find a way to get stops. And like I said, it's difficult. It's tough to find ways because they're very unpredictable, because everything they do is pretty effective. I mean, like I said, there's not many teams that you look at and they're as explosive in the run game as they are in the pass game. But with them, they are as explosive in the run game as they are in the pass game. I mean, Fickel hits for huge home run shots.
He does.
Obviously hits for huge home run shots on designed runs, but also on passes that become scrambles. He just is so tough to track down, and he's a much stronger runner than he was a year ago. You see him break so many tackles, and the same thing's true with Fickel. And while having to try to get guys in the box to play the run, you got to defend the really good receivers that can all run. And I think, again, run exceptional routes too. They're great vertical guys, but they're great underneath route runners as well. So, like I said, testament to the players. They have really, really great players, but they're coached really well too.
What do you do in those passing situations where Levi, has a tendency to, just make plays with his feet and scramble on the, these third downs, fourth downs, situational football late in a game? Do you put a spy on him? Or I know obviously you're going to mix up your looks and everything, but what do you do in those situations where it's late and the best player is going to have the ball in his hands and make a play?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to do a combination of things. They're very good at if you're doing one thing all the time. I think they do a good job of finding what the weakness is and figuring out a way to attack that. So I think you've got to change it up. But there's no question you got to have a lot of eyeballs on Levi. But like I said, they have so many other threats that you can't afford to dedicate 7 guys, to Levi and put your guys in the back end on an island all the time. So, it's really a combination of things. You got to try to surprise them as much as they surprise you. And, sometimes that works out, but it's difficult. When he's got space and open field, he's going to win those battles most of the time. So you got to try to close space on him and kind of leverage the ball. Try to eventually have an inside-outside fitter at some point when you're attacking him, because one-on-one is a no-win situation for no matter how good of a defender you have. And if you have a spy that's really athletic and everything else, a one-on-one with Levi is still not really a fair fight.
Yeah, you got that right. Well, this might be the game of the week, maybe the game of the season, especially in Central Ohio here in Week 8. And I appreciate you hopping on, Coach, for about 10, 15 minutes talking some football, man. Best of luck against Orange. You guys have had an outstanding season so far, and we're really looking forward to Friday night. So good luck, and thanks again for joining me today.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Well, Coach Buttermore is going to have his hands full tonight with this Olentangy Orange offense, and it starts with their quarterback, the Ohio University commit, Levi Davis. 4-year starter, and he is just an unbelievable player. The decision-making and just the intelligence at the line of scrimmage and knowing where to go with the football, it's off the charts. I personally think he's the best quarterback that I've ever seen live in terms of his athleticism, running ability, rocket of an arm, can make any throw, but the decision-making and just the intangibles and leadership as well. And he's a state champion for the basketball team as well last year. He is just a winner and an outstanding quarterback, going to play for the Bobcats next year. He had 2 rushing touchdowns last week, and he's just outstanding with his legs and his arm. And he's got an outstanding running game to support him as well. He's got great receivers. He can make all the throws, but every great quarterback will tell you that they need a great running game in order to support them. The offensive line does their job. And last year they had a guy in Cohen Weaver who had outstanding games running the football, but they might have someone that's even more explosive this year in Lucas Fickel. And I'll tell you what, he's been on a heater, really all season, but especially the last 2 weeks in games where they've dominated start to finish. Fickel can really just change the game and open things up for this pass game whenever he runs like he does. But last week against Dublin Coffman, had a brain fart there for a second. Against Coffman last week, 14 carries, 139 yards, almost 10 yards a carry, and 3 rushing touchdowns. And he did virtually the same thing last week with 50 more rushing yards against Hilliard-Davidson in week 6. He had 13 carries, 185 yards, 3 touchdowns. And, if you look at that, that's 300 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns on only 27 carries over the last 2 weeks. Talk about being explosive. This kid might be as explosive as they come out of the backfield. He is just a tremendous football player and really opens things up for Levi Davis to make the throws down the field, and it makes the play calling for Coach Wes Schroeder. It just really simplifies the game, and it can really open things up, and you can be more diverse, and that's why they've been able to put up so many points. 40 points per game. They opened up, I think first 3 weeks of the season, they scored 42 points each week. It's just virtually unheard of, really. They haven't scored under 30 all season. They're the 3rd scoring offense in the entire state in Division I. And Upper Arlington's offense, they're just outside the top 10. They're a great offense as well. But, man, can they keep pace with this Olentangy Orange offense? It's going to be a really interesting chess match to watch. And let's talk to head coach Wes Schroeder about it because Buttermore's defense, it's schematically, it may not be anything, super special in terms of, drawing up something super creative. He just gets his kids to buy in to the system that he puts in, and he shows multiple looks, and he just shows quarterbacks different things to really get them off script, off schedule. And Levi Davis is an outstanding quarterback when it comes to improvising and being off script. But every quarterback, likes to have a script to go off of, and it just makes the game a whole lot easier. But Buttermore is the ultimate disruptor on the defensive side of the ball with his schemes. He's got great players and a lot of players returning on that side of the ball. And it's going to be an outstanding game to watch tonight. And I want you guys to hear Coach Schroeder's thoughts on this matchup with the Golden Bears. He's going to talk about the intangibles and the leadership of Levi Davis, the explosiveness of Lucas Fickel out of the backfield, the outstanding play of his offense, but how do you match up against Buttermore's defense, but also stop his offense that is still, top 11 in the state in points per game. Olentangy Orange Pioneers joining us going into Week 8, undefeated 7-0 on the year, and I always appreciate your time, Coach, and you're going up against the Upper Arlington Golden Bears this week. And before we dive into that game, I just want to talk about your team's play to this point, because there hasn't been a game all season where you've scored under 30 points. You're averaging 39, almost 40 points per game. The defense maybe is even more impressive, allowing teams under 10 points per game defensively. I think it's 8 points a game, and you've played some great teams like Olentangy's and Gahanna's that have great offenses. What has gone into the tremendous play on both sides of the football?
Good players. We have really good players, and they're playing really hard. And our defense's numbers, like Davidson punched one in on at the end of the game, and Coffman punched one in at the end of the game. I think we've given up 3 first-half touchdowns, or touchdowns that were when the game was not a 30-point deficit or whatever. So our numbers are defensively are probably a little better than what it shows. But I say, those, because I had to mention that because those guys get frustrated when I pull them, and other teams don't sub, and they coach their team, we'll coach ours. So I don't care that they keep their starters in late in the game, but our kids get frustrated with it. So I want to make sure I tell them I'll give them a shout out when we talk about their numbers, because they want the shout outs, and we just want we want to get reps and get kids on the field and move on. But so I think ultimately it's just good players playing really hard and playing selfless and playing together, and it's just a connected group of guys.
You have great players, but you're also a great coach. You got to give yourself some credit here.
Yeah, we try, and I got a really good staff. So I got a lot of really good guys around me and around this program who, I think we do a pretty decent job of putting kids in position to make plays. And I think it happened at Granville when we went to the Final Four, and even at Allen East when we were 9-1. Everybody talked about the talent, which rightfully so. We're very talented, and it almost feels like some people try to say, you're really talented, like it's an insult to us, like as coaches, like anybody could coach it. But I think that, we take it as a compliment because we're putting people, that we care about in position to showcase their talents. We are talented. There's no secret. We do have really good players and really good people. But I do think our coaches do a good job of putting the guys in position to, not complicate it and let the guys, play to the best of their ability and try to put them in the positions where they can showcase what they can do.
Well, I know I've asked you a million questions over the last couple of years about Levi Davis, and we know he's got all the talent in the world. He can run, he can throw, he makes all the throws, makes all the right decisions 99% of the time. But something I read, I think it was a couple weeks ago, he did an interview with, I think, the Dispatch or something like that. And I think this just showcases the type of character that he possesses, because I think the question was in reference to, their state championship in basketball and whatnot. But regardless of the sport, whether or not people view us as the best team, it doesn't matter. There's always things on film that we can correct, and we can always be a better version of ourselves. Outside of his talent and what he does on the field, does that separate him from other great players in the state of Ohio? Is the intangibles of knowing, hey, we might be great, but we can be even better than we are?
Yeah, I think anytime, people ask me about Levi, I talk about the quality of human being he is. I'd never stop saying it because I don't ever want that to get lost in his talent, because his talent is special, and you can watch a game and see how explosive and all the stuff that he is. But I think as a coach, I think what you look for when you're, in the players you want competitive, selfless, hardworking, and he embodies all that. He just happens to be super talented. He's, I can't understate it, is we have a lot of very likable kids on our team who want to do things that's best for the team. And it's not always the case, when you have a team with some talent, like a lot of times they're trying to get their own or do this or do that. And ultimately that's not us. And it all starts with him. He's the leader on the field. Right, wrong, whatever, that's the quarterback kind of gets that. And especially when you're a quarterback of his caliber, and it starts with the way he handles himself. And, we think his, obviously we're not done with him for a while, hopefully. But, we hope he has a lasting impact in the way he's carried himself and the way he's led at practice and the way he's, led the underclassmen. And he's always trying to coach and always trying to do what's best. And he's just one of the guys who is, we can get on him like we would get on, a fourth string, whatever. It's special and it's not common. And that's why he is who he is and wins at everything he does.
Yeah. Now, I know last year you had a very talented running back in Cohen Weaver, and he put up numbers all season long. But another guy that's just as talented and maybe even more explosive in Lucas Fickel. And just looking at the last couple weeks in particular, against Davidson, he had 185 yards and 3 touchdowns. Against Coffman last week, 139 yards, 3 touchdowns. Talk about the job he's done to just provide that explosive element to your offense that I guess gives Levi just a little bit more balance to work with offensively, and it gives you more balance too.
Yeah, we love when he runs as hard as he does. We're his vision has been a work in progress, and it's in a spot where he's seeing things and he's hitting things, and he's 215 pounds, and he's an 11 flat 100 kid. So he's put on as a sophomore, he was like an 11,600, and and then junior year track, he was 11 flat. He was 195. He's put on 15, 20 pounds since last year. And we were watching our UA game when he was in there a little bit. It just looks like a different player, and he just keeps getting better. And I think what people don't realize is he just turned 17 in August, so he really can be a junior. He's when he gets on a college campus next year, he'll be 17. So he's just going to keep getting better and better and better. And he's another one. He's just like Levi. He's more quiet than Levi, but he's gonna do what's best for the team, and he doesn't care. He's gonna run hard. He's gonna take hard coaching, and he's a tough football player, and he's a great kid, and we love having him.
215 pounds and 11 flat speed. Good luck tackling that when you meet him in the hole.
Yeah, he runs hard, and we like getting the ball. It's our offensive line does a really good job. So it's a great backfield. So
yeah. Now with UA coming up, obviously you played them twice last year. You got the better of them in the regular season matchup in week 8, 28-20, and then in the playoffs in round 2, lost 24-20. I think Levi might have thrown an interception late in that game that kind of swayed the game in UA's favor. But Justin Buttermore's defense it's one of the best in the state schematically. He just does such a tremendous job of taking things away from teams that, score a lot of points and whatnot. And you're an outstanding offense. Is there anything that you learned from either of last year's 2 matchups, against Buttermore's defense that you can kind of take and apply to this year? I know the teams are a little bit different, but Buttermore is a schematic genius when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. What have you kind of seen on film as you prepare?
Yeah, no, it's we know what they do, and I know Justin fairly well through the coaching aspect of it, and these kind of guys, you just got to kind of take what they give you, and you just can't force things and put things in bad situations because they'll make you pay. In the last 2 seasons, they've given up 20 points 3 times, and it was us twice last year and then Liberty in the regular season last year. So they don't give up many points, and then they gave up, in his tenure there, I think they give up 30 once or twice, and so they don't give up points, and they're not easy to score on. But it comes down to taking care of the football, and they're going to do some trap coverages and try to confuse our eyes and do different things like that, which is what he's done, and it's why he's so successful. It's so I don't think there's anything specifically, I'm sure they'll give us a few wrinkles. They changed a little bit from a regular season matchup to the postseason matchup with a different look, different fronts and, different coverages and stuff like that. But it's not just schematically. I think it's the way he gets his kids to play hard and believe in what they're doing. So, they play with a lot of confidence. They play really fast because they know what they're doing. A lot of people have good schemes, but I think his scheme and what he does is very good. But his kids buy into what he's doing, and they play very, very hard and very disciplined.
Yeah, and to your point about not allowing teams to score many points, I was glancing over here at the schedule that they've played. They haven't allowed more than 16 points all season, and that was last week against Olentangy Liberty, the state champs, who are really finding their groove now after starting 0-3.
Yeah, it was really 9 points because they threw a pick 6 late. So
that's true. Yeah, you're right. Yep, correct.
Liberty won that game. They're improving, obviously, and they didn't score offensive touchdown. So
yeah. So to your point, outstanding defense with kids that believe and buy into it. And then I guess I know you're an offensive-minded coach and whatnot, but when you look at what they've done offensively, I know they kind of struggled a little bit last week against Liberty, but they've done a tremendous job running the football, and then they pick their spots, as far as taking shots deep downfield. But they are a very good running team. When you look at what they do offensively, how do you match up?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to the season, I think this would be the game. A lot of people would circle. They have a lot back offensively. They have,
yes,
Wolpert or number 9. I know he's really good. He's really good.
Yep.
And that's what goes through in the throw game. And then Theado, the back, runs the ball well, and their quarterback's he's an athlete. He's different than their guy last year. But and their offensive line, most of those guys are back. So that offense is very good, and it can be very dangerous. And, we're fully aware of that. And we just, it's same thing. Always comes down to it. It's just like anything in life. It's like, take care of the ball. It's the simple things, right? Take care of the ball, tackle, block. Whoever does that better is probably going to win. So.
Yeah. Yep. And yes, indeed. Well, thanks, Coach, for hopping on this afternoon here, talking some football for 10 minutes, man. It's going to be an outstanding game to watch. Like you said, I think this is one that, preseason everyone circled, and it was certainly circled by me, and that's why I'm talking to you this week. So thanks for hopping on, man, and best of luck this Friday against UA.
I appreciate you, Will.
All right, we're here with the Upper Arlington High School cheerleaders, and they're going to cheer for you guys real quick as we get ready for Upper Arlington taking on Olentangy Orange. Let me hop out of the way, and I'll let you guys see the cheerleaders.
Let's go Bears! Let's go Bears! Let's go Bears! Let's go Bears!
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right. There are the Upper Arlington Golden Bear cheerleaders getting ready for action here in about half an hour. About 25 minutes, we're going to be kicking off here at Marv Moorhead Memorial Stadium. Want to get the name right there. Fumbling over my words, but that was great for them to hop in. Hopefully you found that entertaining. I thought that was kind of fun. They asked if I could come over and hop on. Why not? So, yeah, we're about ready for some football, man. It's going to be a great one. And I want to show you the matchup history between these two teams before I go. These teams haven't played many times because Olentangy Orange didn't have a football program until, I believe, the 2008 season. And so their first matchup was in 2009, but then a big gap, and they played again starting in 2020. And Upper Arlington has won 5 out of the 7 matchups here. And they met twice last year. You see 2 2024s. They met twice in 2024. And in Week 8, Olentangy Orange won 28-20. The Golden Bears got the better of them in the playoffs, though, and that's when it matters. And UA won 24-20. Levi Davis threw an interception late in that game. It was returned inside the Orange 20, and the Bears scored and ended up winning that football game and knocked Orange out of the playoffs. And now we're set up for another great one here tonight, because last year, I mentioned it at the beginning of the show or some point near the beginning of the show that Orange, UA, and Liberty all shared the OCC Central title last year. It's very rare that you ever see that, right? 3 teams sharing the league title. It very well could happen again this year, and obviously it would take UA beating Orange tonight, and then Orange would have to beat Liberty, of course, down the line too. And if those two teams all kind of win out, they share the league title again. It's very possible. And as it sits right now, Liberty is 4-3, and they've won 4 games in a row. And league play started last week, and Liberty is ahead of UA in the league standings if you were playing for a league championship today. So it's very interesting how competitive and how tight this conference is. And these are two wildly talented teams, wildly good offenses and defenses. The offenses are top 11 in the state of Ohio in Division I, number 3 Olentangy Orange, number 11 UA, and they're led by some really great coaches, Coach Justin Buttermore and Wes Schroeder. And I could go on and on about their resumes, right? Wes Schroeder started at Allen East and had a successful 2-year run there, and his record at Orange since he took over last year, 16-3, 1 playoff win, but his overall record, 52-15, made it to a Division III state semifinal with Granville back in 2021, and he had a 38-8 record with the Blue Aces in his 4-year stint there. Coach Buttermore was also with the Granville Blue Aces for a couple of years, but really made his living coaching the Tri-Valley Scotties over in Dresden. His record with UA in 6 seasons, 53-17. He's got 11 playoff wins with the Bears, but a Division III state runner-up in 2017 with the Tri-Valley Scotties. His overall record, 204-72, and that's among all coaching stops. Again, I could go slide after slide after slide with both of these coaches' resumes, especially Coach Buttermore, since he's been around a whole lot longer and has been extremely successful, but Wes Schroeder making a name for himself as well. Outstanding offensive mind against an outstanding defensive mind, and these two will go to battle once again in the OCC tonight and fight for the OCC Central title, playoff positioning. And this very well could be a preview to a matchup in the playoffs, after the regular season ends here in a couple of weeks. But before we get out of here tonight, let's go through our schedule for Storied Rivals coverage here in Week 8. We'll start with the other games that are in Central Ohio this evening. So Central and Western Ohio. We have Centerville on the road at Northmont. Dublin Jerome is at Olentangy Berlin. Hilliard Davidson hosting Dublin Coffman. Scioto, huge win, 42-7 last week. They're at home against Delaware Hayes. Westerville Central on the road at Gahanna. Grandview Heights, they've kind of been injury-riddled the last couple of weeks. They'll take on Grove City Christian. Granville taking on Licking Valley in LCL action on the right side of your screen. Hamilton Township, Liberty Union. The game I mentioned at the top of the show, I talked to Coach Brett Glass of Jonathan Alder. They're taking on London in a rivalry game this week. New Albany at Central Crossing. Olentangy, Hilliard Darby will go to battle. Olentangy Liberty, the state champs, won 4 in a row at Hilliard Bradley. Our game here tonight, UA Orange, and at the bottom, Marysville, Thomas Worthington. Now we'll go to East and Northeastern Ohio to round out the show this evening. Garraway, after a loss last week against Grady Kinsey and the Indian Valley Braves, they'll host Tusky Valley. And speaking of Indian Valley, they're taking on Ridgewood in a huge IVC clash. Both of those teams undefeated. Had a great game last year, looking for another this year. Union Local, winners of a few in a row at Buckeye Local. John Glenn and Riverview will go to battle tonight, and certainly want to extend our thoughts and prayers to the John Glenn community. A player on their football team died tragically in a car accident recently, and it's just really unfortunate news. And I want to extend, on behalf of Storied Rivals, extend our thoughts and prayers to Coach Edwards, that football team, and the John Glenn community for their loss, and go get a win tonight against Riverview, but also good luck to Riverview as well, and hopefully both teams stay healthy. West Muskingum taking on Maysville. Over to the right side of your screen, Meadowbrook, New Lex, and New Lex 7-0 for the first time since 2008, so that'll be a good one. Sheridan and Morgan, and Sheridan's winners of 5 in a row. Philo at Tri-Valley. Zanesville taking on Watkins Memorial. Worcester against Mansfield, and Talmadge hosting Aurora. So there's your schedule. Central and Western Ohio, East and Northeast Ohio for week number 8. And we really appreciate you making us part of your Football Friday. I want to give a shout-out to our friends at maxeffortmuscle.com, best-tasting protein in the game. They've got protein, supplements, shaker bottles, merch, T-shirts. They're great personalities, great people to work with, and they make great products. And we love working with them, and we appreciate their support each and every year. And also, you saw our video recently that Aaron put out on our story. Our Fear Does Not Exist Halloween-themed inspired merch, hoodies, T-shirts on sale now. If you go to our Facebook or just really send us a message anywhere, and you believe 50% off our T-shirts and hoodies because spooky season is indeed upon us, being October and all. So make sure you grab yours, and let's get ready for some football, man. It might be the game of the week in Central Ohio. Orange and UA going to battle. Also, definitely want to encourage you once again to go watch the full interview with Brett Glass of the Jonathan Alder Pioneers on Facebook and YouTube. I apologize that interview for some reason was only audio tonight during our show instead of video as well. But the video, I did check, it is on YouTube and Facebook. You can watch it there. The Pios 7-0 taking on the Red Raiders, who are also 7-0 in a rivalry, and London's won 4 in a row, but Brett Glass is 3-0 in his coaching tenure against London. So that's going to be an outstanding game to watch. Please go check out the interview before games get started here tonight. Follow us on all the socials, Facebook, X, and YouTube for coverage of our games tonight. And I'm taking off. I'll see you guys later. And happy football, and we'll see you in Week 9 for